and we encourage you to go sign up. We also have some virtual providers. You can also go check them out. So now we would like to give the floor over to Maria. Now that we've given you this information, and Maria, I will pass it over to you. Thank you so much, Ruben. It's so nice of you. Welcome everyone to this talk of why germination is important. So we're going to be discussing in this afternoon the different reasons that it is important that each one of us is germinating. So thank you to Jason for the invitation to allow me to participate in this workshop, which is one of my passions. And we're going to start this dialogue around these germinated seeds. So basically, this is a living organism that is in its optimal point of life to be consumed. We are also going to discuss in this chat what we can germinate. Why is it important to germinate? And how we can use germinated seeds. Many times people germinate and they don't know what to do with our germinated seeds because the only thing that occurs to them is put them on top of any kind of food and that's it. But however, there is a real variety of delicious dishes that you can do with germinated seeds. And so that's what we're going to be exploring today and tomorrow. As I mentioned, a germination is basically a really, really young plant that has just sprouted. It's just in its first 7 to 10 days of having sprouted. And this little plant is filled with nutrients. And when we're talking about nutrients, I don't want to talk too much about that right now because I'm going to be going into it later. But we're talking about that in this moment. It has a real representation of healthy fats, minerals, vitamins, et cetera, et cetera. So the huge quantity of nutrients that these little sproutlings have is even better than taking a multivitamin. So that's one of the reasons why it's very important to germinate. These are living foods. They're natural, they're concentrated with huge quantities of nutrients. And they are indispensable for our human sustenance. Personally, I hadn't planned on this, but I plan on doing this in this talk, but I'll mention that personally, one of the ways that I have difficulties in my systems because of an accident, and one of the ways that I control my pain is through living food. So living food are medicine. And so if we want to use it frequently, if it's possible every day, they will give us basically all of the minerals that we need. And that's why it's important to germinate a variety of seeds, not just lentils every day or mung bean. We can change it up. The quantity of the seeds to germinate, there's no limit. So it's important to explore these different areas. And ingesting these germinated seedlings, as I mentioned, is basically just ingesting vitamins. And if someone doesn't like to be taking pills, to be taking those capsules, look, here's a great solution that you have to maintain your system balanced is by eating germinated seeds. And within these small seedlings, we can find the essential nutrients to digest these seedlings and to digest the food that we're eating with those seedlings. They also have vitamins and minerals, which are essential to our health. For example, amongst the vitamins that we can find in these seedlings is the vitamin A, vitamin complex B in huge quantities. We also have, with our dried seeds, it doesn't have vitamin C. However, when you wet these little seeds and they start their growth process with their toxicity, usually they get rid of what causes flatulence, and they start to produce a huge amount of vitamin C. So practically, these seedlings in this stage of their lives, we're talking about the first 7 to 10 days of their lives, they increase their nutrients 15 times over. And in a study that was done many years ago, they found that many seeds have the ability to increase these nutrients, including up to 400%. And so in addition to the vitamins and minerals that are essential, these germinated seeds also have protein and essential amino acids. They have essential fats. And many scientific studies have reached their conclusion that truly it's indispensable to enjoy good health for us to eat germinated seedlings, if it's possible every day or at least a few times a week. And these germinated seedlings can be turned into many different dishes. The Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who's a biochemist, says that seeds in their process of germination represents a machine of protein in which, together with other proteins, will get out that protein's minerals and vitamins. So basically, these little seeds in their own process, the ones I have right here, and these are from red lentils. According to Dr. Jeffrey Bland, he says that in addition to, in the case of the lentils, which have 6 grams of protein when they're dry, when these lentils are germinated, they have increased their protein 15 times. And he says that it's not just representative of manufactured protein, but also a way to manufacture vitamins and minerals. So together with these lentils, as you can see, just a fistful, which is the only amount we need. If you want to have more, you can have more. Basically what we're ingesting is everything that our bodies need for that day. One of the benefits that germinated seeds give to us is that they transfer to us all of these minerals. So these little seeds that I have here, these little seeds in this moment, so right now I have a green lentil. The optimal moment for this little seed is when the growth is double the size of the dried seed. So basically in this moment, I'm showing you a seed which is in its optimal moment. So in this optimal moment, this seed already has 15 times the nutrients that it had when it was dry. And in addition, in the dried seed, there wasn't any vitamin C. So to be able to grow, it needs to synthesize vitamin C. Also, the germinated seeds give us a really big quantity of vitamin A and vitamin D. In addition to the digestive properties that I mentioned, which are indispensable for us, once we eat these germinated seeds, for example, someone who has the condition where they can't eat beans, they can eat them once they're germinated because these beans have started, these seeds have, they've gotten rid of that toxicity that limits their development. And that's often what causes flatulence. And they become a living food, and that is how they develop themselves. So in this moment, these little simple seeds, these little lentil seeds, which doesn't have, it's not even bigger than 4 to 5 centimeters. It has the ability to be able to produce a plant which will give you many lentils. So when you consume a fistful of lentils, you are consuming a huge quantity of nutrients, because just in this little lentil here, you are consuming the ability that this seed has to be able to produce a plant that will give you fruits. So that is one of the reasons that it is important to eat germinated seeds. Germinated seeds also have a big percentage of mineral water, and this mineral water will give us a lot of energy to help propel our organism forward. And they also allow us to help conserve our nutrients. So when you're eating these germinated seeds, you are conserving your own energy and your vital nutrients to be able to stimulate your metabolism and to also slow down the regenerative process. So I started to eat germinated seeds many, many years ago, and I really feel thankful because at my 63, almost 64 years old, a lot of people say that I don't look my age, and that's one of the advantages to eating germinated seeds, because they slow down that aging process. They also help you help keep you young. So germinated seeds also help to retain the calcium that you ingest every day, making it stronger, and also at the same time making stronger our immunological system. These seeds are relatively cheap. That's another reason why it's really important to germinate. They're very, very cheap. Simply with just one little tablespoon of alfalfa seeds, you can harvest this container, which is a quarter gallon of germinated seeds. And this only comes from 1 tablespoon. And so once you have your germinated seeds, you will have them in 7 days. They're completely ready to be enjoyed. Another one of the advantages is that it boosts your immune system. It helps us live a better and a healthy life. The germinated seeds allow us to restore our sexual pleasure, restore it to a normal place for when someone's healthy. If someone's not healthy and they're having some difficulties in that area, germinated seeds will give you that energy that you need to be able to recover that. And and I can also say, the only thing that you have to do, it's basically like Viagra, only with a little fistful of germinated seeds, you can put it in any smoothie that you want. It could be a strawberry, a smoothie. You just put your little fistful of germinated seeds, and that will really help when you're tired. When you feel tired physically, you feel a little bit sick, you need a little bit more energy. That's the moment in which you can eat or drink your germinated seeds. Or you can, just add them to a smoothie. These germinated seeds will also convert themselves into sugars. Their proteins convert themselves into essential amino acids. And the fats that they have are converted into essential fats, which are very important to be able to slow down aging. And, of course, to, maintain our health. So what can we germinate? Basically, you can germinate any seed that produces an edible plant. You can germinate little sesame seeds, mung beans, peas, and peas come in a lot of different colors. You can germinate lentils, and lentils can be red, green, all different colors. There are black lentils, and it's really important to vary the colors, because their pigmentation represents different types of minerals or vitamins that they have. You can also germinate chickpeas. So there's a really big quantity of seeds that you can germinate, including cereals. Another thing you can germinate, which a lot of people don't do, is rice. The only thing you need to do is just soak the rice before cooking it. You can leave it soaking overnight, and in the morning, your rice, if you cook that rice, it'll be ready in less than 20 minutes. So it also will save you electricity. You can germinate broccoli, alfalfa, a huge amount of other seeds. For example, chia seeds, flax seeds. So with seeds, for example, flax or chia, you need to be a little bit careful because the germinating process is a little bit different. I don't have it here because I have it all in my PowerPoint, but I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration. When you're germinating these types of seeds, the seeds that get a little bit slimy, the only thing that you need to do is put a paper towel. I recommend an organic paper towel. You wet it, you put that down, and then disperse the seeds over the towel. And make sure that they're not too close together, because if they're too close together, they don't develop well, and they'll develop fungus. And it's important to avoid them creating fungus, because that can be a little bit dangerous. Another thing that you can germinate is fenugreek. And fenugreek is basically ready in 3 days. A lot of seeds, like chickpeas, for example, what we can put in a lot of different a lot of different dishes. Simply, they are ready in 2 to 3 days. And the same thing happens with mung beans, with peas. They only need about 4 hours. If you want to do it with garlic, which is also really good, I love it because the flavor really intensifies. And the only thing that you really need to do is put a little bit of water, and you put it in.
And you put it in a glass with a little water. And your garlic will sprout. Also corn. You can germinate corn. It's very delicious. It's sweet. You can use it in salad. You can also use it to make a juice, different kinds of juices. So how do we select the seeds to germinate? It's important when we're going to germinate to select high quality seeds, especially organic seeds. Because depending on the type of seed, you will have much better germinating, much higher quality. So look for your seeds that are high quality. Basically, about $30 to $50 of seeds. That will give you enough to germinate for 3 months. They're quite cheap to produce with these seeds. At minimum, 2 or 3 jars of this size of a quarter gallon for a week. You can just germinate them manually. You can also find pre-germinated seeds in the stores. I don't support that so much, but you can do it if you need to. The germinated seeds often might have fungus already on them. So there are certain methods we can use to germinate. I prefer using glass jars. There are a number of methods to germinate seeds. You can germinate seeds using a glass jar like this one. It doesn't matter what size the jar is. It depends on how much you want to germinate. Or simply, if you don't have a glass jar, but you have a sieve for making spaghetti, you just need to put it in another container and add water at the bottom so that it can hydrate well. And then once this is ready, what you'll do a little bit later in the workshop we'll talk about, but you can cover it with a piece of cloth, and now you have a germinator. So we can all germinate ourselves. And we don't need sophisticated equipment. People like to go. You can put a bag in water, and you can just hang it from a branch. And then in 3 days or so, your seedlings will be germinated. And also these trays that plants come in, or trays like this from takeout, you can also use those to germinate. You can germinate in glass jars, also in plastic materials, but my preference are all the glass jars. That's my preference for years, glass jars. When I was much younger and my children were little, I usually germinated in plastic materials. I had different sizes of plastic materials. But the seedlings didn't turn out that great. And they didn't turn out as well as they do now when I use glass. And there's been different studies in relation to this, and I found, reading those studies, I'm talking about like 40 years ago, that If you germinate in glass, the sprout will be fresher. It will be raw sprout. There's also these types of lids. You can get a package of 3 of these lids with these holes. For example, if you're germinating broccoli or alfalfa, it's great to use these lids. There's different sizes of lids depending on the jars you're using. So germinating in a glass jar like this, the sprout will be in a higher quality. So that doesn't mean that if you don't have glass jars, you can't germinate, but that's what I would recommend. And if you don't have any jar or vase, and all you have is just a towel, a dish towel, you could just moisten your dish towel and sprout your seeds in there. Look how these are growing. They're beautiful, right? And these seedlings this only has 3 days of germinating. So you can just wrap them up in a moist towel. You can wrap it up like this, and then you can hang it. And so the secret here to have an excellent raw sprout is that the water can't be collecting at the bottom. You can't leave water at the bottom. You need to make sure all the water comes out. So if you're germinating in a dish towel like this, what you simply can do is you can just put it on top of a sieve and then another dish below, and then the water will have room to drip out. Or if you put it directly in a glass dish, then you cover it with a sieve, or you could just leave it like this. So that will keep the sprouts nice and healthy. With trays for germinating, they're very conventional. In these trays, you can simply germinate to have sprouts like these. And you can eat half the sprouts and then germinate the rest further along. If you want to do this process, simply what you need to do is to make something where the sprouts can take root. Using a little towel, or actually a paper towel, I would suggest organic paper towels. And you put the seeds in there, and they'll turn out great and really delicious. Also, there are germinators that are automatic. They're quite quick. They're good. But something that I discovered with these automatic germinators is the taste of the sprout is not the same. So my preference is to use these glass jars. And this type, or this style, for example, if you bought some kind of sauce or tomato sauce, doesn't matter what, you just reuse a jar like this, or you can buy this other type of jar. But it's not necessary to buy new glass jars or any other type of glass container. The automatic germinators are convenient because you don't have to spend extra time. You just put in water, you put in the seedling, you close it, turn it on, and 5 or 6 days you'll have your sprouts ready to eat. All right, let's see how we're doing on time. The sprouts growing in plastic containers are of lower quality. What I'm saying regarding quality is that they tend to get hurt or have, but here this is totally different. If you look at this, it's completely different from a sprout that you would buy in a store, because those were produced in automatic germinators, and the taste is not the same. So it's much more delicious when you produce it yourself in glass jars. Another one of the advantages of why I like the glass jars, especially this type, with the wide mouth, it also has these great lids that will fit on it. One thing that's important for me is that you can put your hand into the jar. If you're washing the jar or drying the jar, the wide mouth jars are nice because you can fit your hand in. And I'm sprouting garbanzo beans. So to use a wide mouth jar, it's a great blessing. Of this type, I can't get my hand in here. So that's why I like this kind and get a box of these jars. I can get my hand in, I can wash it, I can dry it. There's lots I can do. I can reuse these jars for a number of different reasons, for a number of different purposes. So what do we need to germinate? Practically for us, we need the jars. We already talked about different types of containers and jars. And I've been in places where I didn't have any glass jars, and I've just reused these types of plastic containers. These are all right, but they're not as high quality as the glass ones. And when I've been traveling outside of the country, and I want to make sure that I have some type of food that will satisfy me, that makes me feel good, then I've just simply germinated sprouts in plastic bags. So you put your seeds in, you moisten them, and they can germinate quickly in here. Here you can see the sprout. I don't know if you see the little sprouts coming out, but practically so this is one I started yesterday morning. Another advantage of the plastic bag is that if you're traveling, and I know lots have changed in terms of travel during the pandemic, but if you are traveling, you can simply wrap your plastic bag that's been moistened with the seeds in a piece of cloth. And so then when I got to my destination, already my seeds had germinated. And I just simply washed my hands really well, and I started to eat my sprouts. So if you just set it up like this before you board your flight, then already when you get to your destination a couple days later, you can eat your sprouts. You can eat germinated seeds once you have for the optimal moment to eat the sprouts is when the sprout has doubled the length of the seed. Another thing you need to germinate, and basically we already mentioned this, but I'm going to mention a little bit more, is some kind of cloth that drains out. Cotton, for example. A cotton cloth is excellent for germinating any type of feed. If you don't have any other way, you can even just go to a dollar store and buy a cotton dish towel. Then you can just germinate in your dish towel, and it'll turn out great. And then you put it in a plastic bag. It can turn out good that way. Or another option is to buy these plastic lids. I really like this system. I think it's really hygienic. Something else I've used to cover the jar is something like this. For example, when you buy garlic in containers like this, then to save this little bag that the garlic comes in, and this is an excellent cover for jars to germinate. You just simply stretch it out and cover your jar. And it's protecting any flies or mosquitoes from getting into the jar. And also has the function of protecting the jar. If you're using something like this that has lots of little holes, then it helps conserve the humidity for the seeds. And you'll be preserving the humidity that the seedlings need to sprout. Also, rubber bands. What you can do, in this case, for example, I've already got the garlic bag stretched over the jar mouth. Then I take a rubber band and I wrap it around. And then you can shake it. So processing to germinate. It's important when you buy the seeds that you're going to germinate that you take a close look, and if there's any seeds that doesn't look the same as the other seeds. For example, this seed is smaller. This means that this seed is quite young. It's quite tender. It's not going to germinate. So I'll take it out. Any seeds that have been harmed or that have a different color, that's a different color than the other seeds. Those are the ones I would take out. So that's the first step, is to look over the seeds and take out the ones that are different. And then if we're using the wide mouth jar, or we can talk about this one as well, you can even use a flower vase to germinate. If you want to make sprouts for lots of people, it's great to just use a flower vase. It's larger. So if you're using the wide mouth jar approach, then simply what you need, and what will make it easier for you and more convenient and more trustworthy for you, you can select the container that's best for you. So then you've got your container, you've got your seeds that you already took out, the ones that were imperfect. For practically, I can't germinate these. So I can't germinate these garbanzos in this larger container, which is a 2-cup size. It's important to keep in mind that the seeds will double their size. You might end up having 4 times the size of the seeds after they germinate. So you should use a container that's 4 times larger than your original seed size. So this larger white container is the perfect size for this amount of garbanzo beans. So I pour in the garbanzo bean, and then I need to put in 3 to 4 times as much water as the amount of seeds that I'm going to germinate. So I'm going to use 3 or 4 times as much volume in water as the seeds I selected. It can be even 5 or 6 times more, but at minimum it needs to be 3 or 4 times more water in volume. So you'll soak the seeds so they hydrate and they will eat up the water. You want to take out any kind of toxicity. So after you soak the seeds, you will drain out the water, and then you will soak it with fresh water again for an additional number of hours to make sure that it's fully clean and there's no toxicity. So you need to use a dry, dark place. Dry, fresh, and dark. A pantry is a great place, or cabinets in the upper part of your kitchen are a great place to germinate. If you don't have a good cabinet or a pantry, then just cover it up with a dark cloth. Use the darkest cloth that you have available. Another environmental aspect that I like to use to germinate seeds quickly is if you have a electric stove. I wouldn't do this with a gas stove, but with because the seeds will absorb all of the toxicity around them. So it must be electric if you're going to do this. So you can put it in the electric stove in a dark space, and that will help the seeds germinate. After you've soaked your seeds, what you'll do is you'll put it at the 45-degree angle so that the water will come out, so that there is no water left inside. If there's water left inside the seeds after you've soaked them, then so here's an important secret I want to share. If you want your sprout to grow at a regular rate, then just twice a day you'll soak them. But if you forget to soak your seeds and it's been a couple days, then all you need to do. So the more often that you soak the seed, the faster they will grow. So if you do it 3 or 4 times a day, it will speed up how fast they're growing. So that's something that's often not mentioned if you look up information about how to germinate seeds, but you should rinse them 3 or 4 times a day if you want them to grow quickly. But ideally, 2 or 3 times a day, you're rinsing your seeds again, and then you're putting them back in your dark, dry place at the 45-degree angle. If you're using amaranth or alfalfa, red clover, these seedlings will take 5 to 6 days. If if you haven't been rinsing them enough, it might take a little bit longer. So what you need to pay attention to is that if water's left in it, that it could mold, so you want to make sure that you are draining it properly. So when you rinse your seeds in your jar, it's really important, and I'll show you. Those are all set, but I'm going to use this one. So when you're rinsing your seeds, it's important to do this kind of circular motion to move them around. And the reason I'm saying do the circular motion is because if there's any kind of toxicity in the jar, then doing this type of movement, the seeds essentially will be like cleaning the jar, and so it's important to do this movement, especially in the beginning with the seeds and also throughout the process of germinating, every time you rinse. If you're using a wide container like this, you can just put your hand in like this and circle it around to eliminate any type of toxicity that has stayed in the container or any residue that's left behind in the jar. So this germinated sprout will take 3 to 6 days, depending on the type of sprout. So in the case of alfalfa seeds, excuse me, so we're talking about lentils, or garbanzo, or other types of grains, they will be ready once they've doubled the size of the original seed. And so then you can cover them up when they're all done with a regular lid and put them in your fridge. And with these alfalfa seeds, the secret for knowing that they're done is simply, so when you open the seed, that one broke, they're very fragile. When they open and there's 2 little leaves, at first they'll be yellow. So make sure that they're not getting a direct light from the window, or that will hurt them. So you want to give them indirect vitamin D. You could put them on your dining room table, you could put them on the counter, but not in direct sunlight. And then when the leaves are completely green, if you're germinating broccoli or alfalfa,